It's only Wednesday, but it feels like Friday. I don't know. There's just so much going on, and we have a great show ahead of us. I think it's going to be a good show. We'll see what the audience throws back at me. As always, I'm going to throw everything I have at the audience. We'll see what comes back. But tonight we are preparing for a little bit of a break. Like I said, it's not going to be a full break because I'll be uploading from the road, and depending on what the internet is like, maybe I'll do some live streams and things like that. Fill up the week from the Jay Gulanello Perpetual Health Seminar. That'll be nice. You know, it's really something that of any of the times that we have gone on the road for a little bit, Lauren and I, the baby, the last couple of years, usually there's like one week out of the year that we find a way to get out, whether we go up to Maine. I'd love to go back there again. Oh, I heard, did you hear, everybody up in Maine, did you hear that George Soros bought 24, according to the thing I was reading here before, what is it from? Semaphore. Media political divide plays out in Maine. This was updated a couple of days ago. The scoop: local media in the state of Maine has emerged as an unlikely and asymmetric battlefield for big American political money. What? What's going on? Well, two of the country's key left-leaning political spenders, George Soros' Open Society Foundation and the medical device billionaire philanthropist Hans-Jörg Weiss. Hans-Jörg Weiss? I don't even know who that is. Played a central and previously unreported role in the nonprofit purchase of nearly 24 respected local newspapers in Maine. So it looks like they're trying to button up New England for good, including the Portland Press Herald, the Lewiston Sun Journal, and the Kennebec Journal. The July announcement by the National Trust for Local News was greeted with relief by the paper's management, unionized employees, and readers, who had feared a sale to the sort of cost-cutting investors that had scooped up troubled local news organizations in the past, I guess. Oh, don't worry about that. George Soros and his little toady minion Alex, for the foreseeable future, want to make sure that everything, I don't know. So there you go. Local DAs, local newspapers, they want it all, baby. Anyway, Maine is a beautiful place, and I'd love to go back to it. I just won't be reading the newspaper while I'm up there. So that's just one thing I want to throw out. But welcome to the show. I think we were going to be speaking with Nick Hinton tonight, but we had to reschedule. And that is all right, because whenever Nick comes on, it'll be the right time, and we'll have a good conversation. So as for tonight, I have a few other things that we're going to be doing. In the second half of the show, I'm going to introduce it to you in just a second, because I want you to get some ideas thinking or boiling in your little head over there. I want to hear about lost and found stories, things that you had lost that turned up in unlikely ways many years later, like the most incredible lost and found stories that you have. I would like to hear about those, at least mixed into all the other topics that will come up tonight. And the other topic that is going to be resounding after a little bit of an F-35 update is the topic of Cluster B societies, our Cluster B society. And it is all based on the most recent release and work of Christopher Rufo, who I'd love to have on the show someday. But I think this should open up quite a bit of thought-provoking material, and hopefully discussion-provoking material. You know, there's no right or wrong thing. However the material, the subject matter, the topics, the rotation for any show hits you, whatever it inspires you want to say or brings up that's related thought, just call in with it. And that's what I hope we can fill up the 2 hours with. So that's what we have. And I would like to say that tonight will be the last show on Theta, I'm afraid. I've really enjoyed the time there. It had a lot of promise, a lot of stability as a platform, but I guess they're just going in a different direction with the NFT stuff that I don't know anything about. So that's that. I think that streaming is still going to be live there for a few more days, but I figure it's the end of the week. Let's just start the new week fresh. So I really encourage everybody on Theta who watches there regularly. I'm sorry. I would have never cut it if they didn't change their website up, because decentralized, I like to prioritize over that over anything else these days. But please join us on quitefrankly.tv starting on Sunday night, 9 p.m., because I will be live with Matt Christensen, and we will be live syndicating that stream on 9 p.m. on Sunday night. That'll be essentially most of the Sunday night programming. Then I'll pick some stuff for afterwards. But then next week you can just kick it off with us, and that is as independent a website as it gets, powered by as independent a network as it gets, Foxhole, connected to pill.net. So that's what I would say. If you're jumping ship at Theta, get on over to quitefrankly.tv, please. All right. Okay. Well, I think that's all. Thank you to Blue Monster Prep. I was just looking through Blue Monster Prep today, because now that I'm starting to get through I'm starting to take inventory of whatever the hell we have to know what we need a little bit more of, what we don't have at all, and I just get waves of gratitude for being linked up with BlueMonsterPrep.com, because there's many years that I was like, man, I really want a survival food and preparation company to be with us, not just food but everything, and they are the full package deal there, because they even train you how to use the equipment that they sell. They're certified and authorized to do all of that stuff, as they train law enforcement and emergency services all over the country. So get in touch with Pat and Gina and just see what your house needs, see what your vacation home needs, your fallback shelter, whatever the hell it is, your storm cellar. Just get things in there. Solar power generators, two-way radios. Make sure that you have less to think about than the person next to you whenever the unexpected hits. All right. First thing up on the grad bag. We have plenty of time to just stretch our legs tonight. First thing up is from studyfinds.org. Studyfinds.org, and it says constitutional confusion. Confusion about what? Survey reveals Americans woefully uninformed about their own rights. You're kidding me. The U.S. Constitution was a collaborative effort undertaken by many of America's founding fathers. James Madison played an especially crucial role in drafting the supreme law of the U.S., and as such as is often referred to as the father of the Constitution. One can't help but wonder what President Madison would think about the results of a new survey by the Annenberg Public Policy Center of the University of Pennsylvania. In short, the poll suggests a troubling number of Americans are incredibly uninformed when it comes to their own constitutional rights. Even worse, the 2023 Annenberg Constitution Day Civic Survey, an annual poll released every Constitution Day, September 17th, also found that a significant number of Americans can't even name the three branches of the government. More specifically, while 2/3 of Americans, 66%, can name the three branches, 10% can only list two. Another 7% can only name one, and an astounding 17% can't name a single branch. Meanwhile, when respondents were asked to name all of the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment to the Constitution, most Americans, 77%, could only name one, the freedom of speech. So, that's it. Do Americans know what freedom of speech is? Besides freedom of speech, 77%, being the most widely remembered right guaranteed by the First Amendment, another 40% of Americans were able to name the freedom of religion. 33% could name the right to assembly. 28% remember the freedom of the press, and a meager 9% recalled the right to petition the government, redress of grievances. In total, just 5% of the U.S. adults could correctly cite all five First Amendment rights, and 30% named 3 or 4. So, even though most people only knew one of the Bill of Rights, of that, how many knew that there's 5 rights baked into it? And then, here's another fun fact for you. 6 out of 6 Americans have no representation in the government that they vastly misunderstand. How's that for a fun fact? All 6. So tell me where that leaves us. That we have no representation. I brought it up again this morning. It needs to be drilled down. 435 people in the House of Representatives do not represent anything, any portion of 340 million. No way. But hey, at least everybody knows how to say the word insurrection. So at least the average American had their vocabulary expand by one word, and it's multisyllabic too, or is it polysyllabic? Anyhow, moving on. Speaking of rights, moving on to New York City. There's a little bit over here with Eric Adams. Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. Just give me a second. Wait. I have to renew my parking. What the fuck? My payment failed. Oh, I'm screwed. My initial payment failed. You know what that means? That means that I'm going to be paying $35 for parking now. $35 for parking. Hold on. Let me expand this to 9 p.m. Let's see if this one goes through. Confirm payment. Parking was successfully created. Too bad, an hour and a half ago, when you thought you were covered, you were dinged. I'm going to go out there. There's going to be a ticket on my car. There's no doubt about it. Damn it. Just when you thought you did everything right. All right, let's move on to New York City, where the parking tickets are a lot bigger than $35. Staten Island residents legally formed. This is from Sal Greco's Twitter account. Staten Island residents legally protested illegal aliens being allowed to invade a former senior citizen home last night by Mayor Eric Adams. And he thinks it's unacceptable and sent drones, 300 plus cops, and arrested 10 peaceful protesters. Listen to this.
And I need us to get through this together. And how we get through it is not what we saw in Staten Island last night, where people are banging and using derogatory terms to identify people based on their ethnicity. That is not who we are as a city. We're 8.3 million people that are tolerant and acceptable.
No, we're not. No, the city is not 8.3 million tolerant and accepting people. It's not. Everybody's looking out for their own thing. Everybody's looking out for their own interests. And where people are decent, yeah, most people, yeah, they don't take that whole we walk around, you know, with the you know, holding the fate of civilization against our bosom, and all we think about is being accepting of people. Nobody gives a shit. Being accepting. Everybody just wants to get on with their lives, and good for Staten Island for doing what they're doing. But 300 plus cops, they arrested 10, and it's getting ugly. Just everybody's got to take note about this one. And I told you that they are pretending not to want this, all of this, to avoid doing the only thing that is warranted in this situation, which is the expulsion of the invaders. Has nothing to do about where they came from. I don't care if they're all from Poland. I don't care if they're all from Luxembourg. Get them the fuck out. But he's willing to flex this kind of muscle on citizens, though. Definitely willing to do that. And it is just a little bit of a market test, no doubt about it. All right, moving from there to a New York Yankee. Always have a special place in our hearts if you were a 90s kid or older. Former Yankee David Wells trashes Nike, Colin Kaepernick, and men in women's sports. It's not right, and it's dangerous, he said. Boomer was the best. He really was. This guy can throw strikes with his eyes closed. Former MLB pitcher and two-time World Series champion David Wells took shots at Nike for the company's support of former NFL player Colin Kaepernick when he kneeled during the United States national anthem. Wells spoke to Fox Business' Maria Bartiromo and explained that had he been playing when Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem, he would have cut out the Nike logo from his jersey. Nike famously began an ad campaign when the quarterback shortly after his publicity stunt. culminating in a widely mocked image of Kaepernick's face that said, "Believe in something, even if it means sacrifice everything." When Kaepernick took the knee, and against our national anthem, and I'm a huge, huge military supporter, that's why what my foundation is all about, for Nike to jump on board and reward this guy for that, and the things that are going on, I told myself if I was playing in today's game, we had Nike jerseys, I'd tape it up, I'd cut a hole in it. Well, in early September 2023, Wells appeared at the New York Yankees Old Timers Day, which was a lot of fun. It was great. It's 25 years since that historic 1998 team when they won 125 games. They didn't play a game anymore. It's just Old Timers Day. They don't have the game anymore, which sucks. I wanted to see them all play. But that's all I tuned in for, too. I didn't even watch the game afterwards. Just wanted to see my Yanks. My childhood Yanks. Like my mom used to tell me when I was growing up, and we would watch old Yankees games from the late 70s, and she'd say, "Frankie, these are my Yankees. These are my Yankees." And then we got to enjoy the Yankees of the 90s together. Everybody shared those, but still, me in middle school coming on up and getting to live through that was real magical. In a magic time, the last of the magic years in this country. In early September 2023, Wells appeared at New York Yankees Old Timers Day, where he appeared in Yankee jersey with tape covering the Nike logo, which I got to say, I hated it from the moment they put it on there. That they had started to turn these baseball uniforms into NASCAR jackets. That there's a Nike uniform right there. They used to be made by Reebok and Majestic or whatever the hell it was, and there was a little bit of a badge in the back of the neck around the collar, maybe something small and unassuming on the left, but the fact that they have it right there on the breast is sick. It looks terrible, but it's already been on the jerseys for years now, and I guess it's going to stay there. So soon they'll have a Charmin's toilet paper logo on the back next to their numbers. Fox Sports reporter Disha Thozar reported that not only did Wells cover the Nike logo when he was asked why, he replied, "I hate Nike." That's David Wells. Oh, this is great. And reportedly convinced others to cover up the logo on their jerseys as well. I didn't even notice. The tape fell off, Wells joked. It wasn't staying on very well, so I had some thicker tape. So I have to find some thicker tape or some stickier tape. The former pitcher for the Yankees, Toronto Blue Jays, and Boston Red Sox also discussed the politicization of sports, particularly with transgender athletes competing against women. Quote, "Now with these companies that are coming out and jumping on board and trying to change the game and put a lot of politics into the game, to me, I think it's confusing a lot of players because they're afraid to speak up." And he was asked about Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, she's so spot on when it comes to transgender athletes in sports. Men playing women's sports, it's just, you can't do that. It's not right, and it's dangerous. There you go. Now, for those of you who don't know, another thing, since it's been 25 years, I say, I got to play this. When David Wells pitched a perfect game, it was in May of 1998. He was very famously out the night before, just partying in New York City. I think the story goes that he was drunk, drinking. His night ended at 5:30 in the morning. And he went and got 1 hour sleep. He woke up, and then he went to the field to start preparing for a 1:30 matinee game. It's a 1:30 in the afternoon game. And the way he said it is that he had the worst bullpen session of his life. That is the warm-up session prior to go. He said he felt like he had absolutely nothing. He was going to get shelled. And then he proceeds to go, and he pitches a perfect game. 27 up, 27 down, and I just want to relive this moment with you for a moment. That's it, man. Good times. 25 years. That's just not possible. No one was beating them that year. No one. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. In fact, help me share this out there. Get it out there. Wherever you're watching, hit the share button and just let people know. It doesn't matter if you're watching live. It doesn't matter if you're watching it 5 years from now. Tell somebody you know about, quite frankly, the good times. We are here for all the good times during the bad. and all the good times during the good, for that matter.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!
Sandy Nelson. Let there be drums. Okay, so I got a few things on this F-35 real quick because I like the feedback that I'm getting. It's not the biggest story of the year, but it's an interesting story. And if I keep getting good feedback, I want to keep getting it onto the record. It's helping me tailor my own opinions about what's going on here. First one up. Hey, Frank, here's what I can tell you. This is from Ronan Dosho. Ronan says, hey, Frank, here's what I can tell you about the F-35 crash coming from someone who, in my military and private sector career in aviation, I've been to no less than 13 crash sites in 23 years. Briefly, that's a typical crash site. Especially for landing in what looks like forested land, my team was tasked with recovering everything. The engine, that will be the most visible, the largest piece to be found in the plane, depending on how fast it was traveling upon impact and what angle of attack it hit the ground or the trees. It could be as far as 3/4 of a mile away along the same line of travel. I hate to say that it's normal. But it is. Keep in mind, aircraft are made of various grades of aluminum, which is relatively soft compared to steel. And lastly, that guy who called in and suggested all aircraft can be traced and or hacked in some kind of nefarious manner is full of crap, especially considering the F-35 has been known to be a problematic aircraft. By the way, you have never lived until you found a pilot's helmet and his head was still in it. Oh, jeez. No. Well, I guess I don't want to live. I guess I'll just remain in the land of the dead forever then. Jeez Louise. Okay, so there's a little bit more there. And as far as what's coming out of the media, don't expect to really you're going to get jerked around by everybody. And especially the New York Post, which, I go to them for some things. I can riff really well with New York Post level reporting, but it is getting bad. It really is. I'll give you an example. I went and grabbed this article because the headline, F-35 pilot ejected from $100 million jet over South Carolina due to bad weather, as experts reveal why plane couldn't be tracked. I said, I'm going to read this because bad weather, you jump out of a plane? I know that the F-35 is all-weather capable. Most of our fighter jets have been that for a long time. So this can't be it. But this is the headline they gave everybody. You read a little bit more into it. Not too deep either. The pilot who ejected from a $100 million F-35 fighter jet claimed to have lost the plane in the weather and likely bailed out before he could activate his tracking system, sources and the experts said. He's unsure of where his plane crashed, said that he lost it in the weather. So what he's saying is that he lost sight of the aircraft after he ejected because it might have been overcast or something like that. He didn't bail out of the plane because there was, storm clouds coming. It's the writing, whether it's being deceptive to get clicks, or the quality of the writing is just so poor, which it could be both at this point. But man, New York Post, way off the mark, man. Seriously. But there you go. Military officials have not yet released a specific reason for the pilot's hasty exit. Oh, really? I thought it was the cirrus clouds that confused him. He had to eject. So make sure you read the articles, if you're going to read them at all, with a very, very, very just comb through. And have your thesaurus and your dictionary out. All right, but here's a little bit more testimony from down on the ground over there in the Carolinas. It's been getting around a little bit. There was an eyewitness to all of this. And listen, I found it on Reddit.
Talked to a man who lives out
it was sent to me.
He told me he actually heard the plane as it was flying past his house and crashing nearby, but he didn't know what it was.
Wait. Why the hell is this doing this? First of all, hold on. Put that all the way up, this all the way up, and why is this half of an image? Get the hell out of here.
Talked to a man who lives.
Just give me a moment. I'm going to reload this. I'm going to pray that I'm not messed with again. Oh, well. They didn't rob a bank. But there's you got it. I love the screeching whining sound. You know, people are wondering whether or not this is going to get remixed. I don't know. Maybe. There was like a golden age of taking witness, any kind of witness testimony from the news and turning them into, like, I don't know, hits. We're talking about pop hits that would chart. Charles Ramsey. I still play Charles Ramsey on this show all the time. It's a good time. It was like a golden age. But I don't know what you can do with that other than that. I mean, something has to be done with the scream, obviously. But we'll see what the internet comes up with. You know, somebody's working on it right now. Somebody is. They're working on it right now. All right, here's another one I got for you. This is from... Is this about the F-35? No, this is about something else. This is about the border, I think. Good evening, Frank. I'm the former Marine that wrote you a while back about the U.S.'s ability to go toe-to-toe with Russia. I haven't. He pretty much said no. It's not going to happen. We would lose quickly. I have an interesting thought I'd love to hear your opinion on regarding the migrant invasion insanity. I think you're right. It's 100% a military action. I'm going to do my best to present my thoughts concisely. Originally, I thought these people have been brought here to fight against us, Americans, to replace us or fight for them. On the surface, it absolutely looks that way. That being said, I have a thought, and mind you, I don't know either way. If we recall our Civil War history, what did the North do to the Irish? When the Irish were landing here to participate in the American dream, the North said, and I paraphrase, of course, sign up with us, fight the South, and we'll give you a place here. In my opinion, the United States military is done. It's fake and gay, like everything else they've been doing the last 20 years. Look at Ukraine. NATO has thrown practically 3 full armies at Russia, and not only has Russia defeated them, they haven't even used their regulars. What if they're going to use this Irish tactic on these migrants as a last-ditch effort? Feel free to share or use my thoughts as you wish. And please keep me anonymous. Thank you for all that you do. I love your show and tremendous effort. I think it's plausible as anything else. When the armed forces is using drag queens and cartoons to try to drive recruitment among young Americans who, by and large, cannot pass. Over 3/4 of them cannot pass the physical evaluation tests. We're going to start emptying the prisons, and we're going to start recruiting foreigners, which was another thing. Everybody talking about the Roman Empire a lot lately, which was another thing that really, when you start conscripting people who are not Roman, it really goes a long way. It really goes a long way in furthering the decline of your, whatever the hell it is, empire, your country, whatever the hell. They have no connection over here. They're mercenaries. And it could be. It could be. But when the United States military is using drag queens and cartoons to try to drive, recruitment among young Americans, you know that this is FUBAR. And on a completely related note, that brings me to the bigger topic in the first half. We're going to get around to this other thing that I want to do. In fact, I'll do it right now just so I can plant the seed and you guys can start writing it down while we do this other thing. Here is from the thread tonight. You still have time to go to quitefrankly.tv and jump into the forum. It's free. And find this pinned to the top. The show thread is called Lost and Found. And I was asked by an audience member, Frank, could you share stories of losing something and finding it years later? Now, I'm just going to say, again, lost and found, it doesn't have to be years. It could be months, but it could be just an extraordinary circumstance. It could be many years. It could be decades. Just an extraordinary lost and found story. I'm just going to widen it out a little bit like that, but make sure it's extraordinary. All right? I already have a couple of things in there, and maybe we'll get to that in the second half. I think we will have plenty of time. So keep that in mind. But for now... speaking of FUBAR, where the hell is that other thing? Wait a second. Hold on. I have a little bit of an issue right now. I'm looking for the video that I was putting up. Hold on. Not to worry. Not to worry. I can just throw another one up on the screen right now. So this is the video that we're going to queue up in just a second here.
You're not a
There we go. All right, perfect. Now that that's out of the way. So speaking of FUBAR, on a completely related note, that brings us to this video that was released on Twitter today by Christopher Rufo, and we have covered his work in the past. It's at least contributed to conversations. He does a lot of great threading, a lot of cultural analysis, not just analysis, but deep dives. Deep dives into the think tanks and the institutions that actually go and have the stated goal, the mission to go and change human behavior for obviously the worst. When you talk about limiting a person's ability to be independent, either in thought or in action or anything like that, and that's what we have here. So he said this with his latest video. It's 11 minutes long, but I want to watch it with you. We'll stop along the way. It'll go by pretty quick. I watched about half of it or so before, and I know it's going to be good. But he said this: American culture has been sent adrift. In a new short film, I show how a strange new pattern of psychopathologies, I know Lindsay Sharman's going to like this one, has deranged our institutions and plunged our public life into hysteria, narcissism, and moral theatrics, all in the name of care. Welcome to the Cluster B Society. So let's jump in on this, and along the way, only a couple of times, we will stop and maybe get some of your opinions as well. Here we go.
You're not imagining that the world has gone mad. Healthy debate has been replaced by activist hysterics. Masculinity is condemned as regressive, while men in skirts and heels are celebrated in the public square. It's as if we're experiencing a society-wide mental breakdown. It's easy to laugh at these outbursts as the ravings of a small but vocal minority, but the compromised health of our body politic is not a trivial concern. A strange new pattern of psychological dysfunction has infiltrated our most prestigious institutions, our corporate bureaucracies, and the highest offices in the land. In short, we're sick. Our society is out of balance. We've been consumed by a cluster of disorder that appeals to our worst instincts and deranges our most important social functions. We need to recover our sanity, but to do so, we must first know exactly what we're dealing with. Every historical period develops unique psychological characteristics that shape public life. After World War I, we had the lost generation that was shell-shocked and disillusioned. In the mid-20th century, we entered the age of anxiety, characterized by a pervasive sense of existential dread in the face of the bomb. And 50 years ago, we saw the rise of the culture of narcissism, which social critic Christopher Lasch described as a society obsessed with ego, desire, and self-image. Today, we are witnessing the emergence of something new, what might be called a Cluster B society. Like the culture of narcissism, our own digital age has a distinct psychological profile, heavily influenced by the power of social media. The cameras are always on. An audience is always watching. and narcissism has transformed into hysteria, moral theatrics, emotional volatility, self-indulgence, and outbursts of violence. Psychologists have captured the spirit of our modern culture in 4 specific psychopathologies that together comprise the cluster B personality disorders.
Now, some of these are going to be very, very familiar to you all because we discussed them on this show. Especially, you'll see, HPD.
Narcissistic personality disorder is characterized by a sense of entitlement, obsession with one's own self-importance, and deep feelings of resentment, often expressed through moral self-righteousness. Borderline personality disorder is characterized by an unstable sense of identity, black and white thinking, feelings of emptiness, and recurring self-harm and suicide attempts. Histrionic personality disorder is characterized by excessive emotionality, sexual provocation, and attention-seeking, often to serve a pathological need for sympathy. And antisocial personality disorder is characterized by impulsivity, manipulation, disregard for others, and a penchant for violence and aggression that violates social norms.
Now, I want to also stop there, too, and, you know, while this is a really great way of diagnosing what's going on, the other thing to remember, too, is going into the future, we often come to the conclusion that, listen, either way we win. Obviously, there's not going to be any soft landings. There's only going to be hard landings, and there's only going to be hard times. But eventually, things will self-regulate. But, I mean, who knows if we're talking about, clawing back from the ruins of a very catastrophic global kinetic war, or whether it is just a economic collapse, who the hell knows what it is. It's going to take time. Now, the real thing here is that whether we win or whether they win, they still lose. And the big reason is these personality disorders, that makes the foundation of what is going on in the statist left. Okay, and that includes progressive neocon types, anybody that wants to centralize power and nitpick and really control, micromanage the human species. That is what is going on. Now, to be able to recruit people to your cause, they have chosen playing to people's insecurities, drilling new insecurities and psychoses into them. And when you have everybody that's so narcissistically driven by things, what you don't understand is they like to push little concepts like intersectionality out there. Well, I don't care how many different social or special interest groups you have in the room who are supposedly all intersectional and they all want the same thing for the same reason. They're narcissists. They all believe that their cause needs the most attention and the quickest. Okay? There is a hierarchy, and they all believe that they are individually at the top of it, unless your spot in the hierarchy is to be, self-flagellating, and you are the jester, you are the clown, you are the punching bag, and you're making up for some kind of imaginary guilt that was imparted onto you. Everybody gets privilege, everybody gets guilt, and that's what happens there. So this is the foundation for a movement. It is always going to lose. They're always going to self-cannibalize. It's always going to happen because there is actually no unity. You're trying to piece together a majority, the pie chart, how many, whatever. With they're trying to get past that 51% majority by piecing together little slices of the pie, by putting everybody in their own little demographics and make sure that they are given this, rainbow coalition, it's all of us against the world kind of a thing. And if they ever get that 51% and they make it permanent, then they're going to have to deal with their own self-interest, which is always going to collide, and they're always going to eat themselves up because nobody's actually looking to live a good life and to be a good neighbor and to actually have good, wholesome things happen. It's hell. Okay, you've got hell. You're living hell. And that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. You can't just, I don't know. You got to be exercised when you're possessed like that. So it's really a great job by Rufo for showing really in a glimpse right there the foundation upon which all this is built.
But this cluster of social pathologies is no longer an individual matter. It has begun to shape the patterns and structures of our entire culture, which is quickly becoming a cluster B society that replaces disagreement with accusation, uses false compassion to manipulate citizens into compliance, honors victimhood instead of accomplishment, and enforces the whole scheme with the threat of violence. For most of our history, significant personality disorders were treated as problems and largely relegated to the fringes of society. But in our emerging cluster B society, the narcissist, the borderline, the hysteric, and the antisocial psychological types have been elevated into positions of power and celebrated by our institutions. The new status quo is an emerging leadership class that rules through emotional blackmail. Powerful institutions use the cover of various victim groups to impose their agenda on the rest of us. If we dissent, we're branded as hateful bigots. We're accused of lacking empathy. We're ritualistically banished. While these strategies are contemptible, they're also remarkably effective in controlling what we think, what we say, and how we act. And they've slowly transformed our institutions into what psychologist Andrei Lobachevsky calls pathocracy, or rule by psychological dysfunction. This has become our new social order. If you look around, you'll start seeing it everywhere. The cluster B traits have been formalized and entrenched in our human resource departments, government policies, cultural institutions, and civil rights law. This is a recruiting video from the CIA that overtly valorizes the cluster B traits of narcissistic identity obsession, self-righteousness, and need for affirmation.
I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder.
You remember when we did that one? It's all, I mean, that is the CIA. They're saying we want the most tortured people with a chip on their shoulder, the most identity obsessed people in the world to come here to work for Central Intelligence. Show everybody how you shine. I mean, man, oh man.
In a cluster B society, psychological disorders become markers of distinction rather than problems to be solved. Politics, too, has been infected.
Belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here.
This is a state senator engaged in deranged moral theatrics, with all of the attention-seeking, black and white thinking, and excessive emotionality associated with cluster B.
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
And finally, we see Kiara Bridges, a law professor at UC Berkeley, who demonstrates the kind of antagonism, emotional manipulation, and accusatory tone that has become a staple of political discourse. The goal is not to arrive at answers, but to browbeat opponents and make them feel bad for denying left-wing orthodoxy.
And notice that the biggest standard bearers for them all are women. Just note, I'm sure that I mean, he's already mentioned it at some point there too, but this is why I always point it out too. It's not because I'm a sexist or whatever, or I can't stand women or anything like that. It's just this is spearheaded by short-circuiting liberal women, driven by unfocused, unrestrained, feminine chaos energy. That's what it is. It's irrational, it's unaccountable, and it's being magnified under the banner of liberalism, or liberation, I should say. You know, are you a tyrant who can't be reasoned with? Well, if you're a man, they'll call you a fascist. If you're a woman, they'll call you a bad bitch girl boss, get it, queen. That's what they'll call you if you're an unreasonable tyrant. Now, with a touch of the opposite power inside of that half, that's the essence of the yin and the yang. You know, feminine energy is given focus and a beneficial degree of subdual by the masculine. All right? Not only that it's in balance with as a counterpart, but inside of itself. And for the masculine, a touch of that feminine energy softens what is otherwise a very mechanical, stable, and highly more predictable profile, okay? Willpower, clarity, focus, that is traditionally masculine traits, and with a touch of that feminine in it, you have a nice hint of dynamic creativity. I mean, that is the balance that we always talk about that is deliberately being disrupted. And this is why feminism was a prime weapon of choice in slowly dismantling Western civilization. And we are in the late stages of that burnout right now, and it is a burnout because every mic drop is embarrassing. I mean, I feel like we are watching. I feel like anybody out there feeling like they're fighting the power and screaming at a pussy hat march somewhere for a camera, talking about abortion and whatever. I mean, they think that they're making good points if they don't run away altogether. But everybody looks like they ought to be inside of a padded room with a straitjacket on. I mean, this is burnout time. Also, from Monday night's talk with Matt Christensen, I had one or two people get in touch with me and remind me that, hey, Frank, I took a little exception with what Matt said there because, not all girls are being raised wrong. And on social media, I think girls are getting a pretty bad rap. And I would agree with that to a degree, because that degree being I never generalize, I never broad stroke that completely. But the way I see it, girls are getting a bad rap because they're being groomed to be bad in ways that they don't know. Okay, and there are plenty of well-adjusted girls that out there that guys would be proud to write home to mom about. But the dominant culture that the collective is seeking to install in girls and in boys is unnatural. Okay? Boys are being groomed into bad candidacy as well, with their submissiveness and the self-esteem and the guilt complexes and all that shit. I see a lot of the things that I took on through not only just school, though I don't really feel like I got it really that bad. None of what they were trying to do to me in college was really. I didn't understand why, but I was a little bit of a stick in the spokes in college, especially my sociology classes. I didn't understand it. If I were in there right now, I would be reviled. But maybe they just saw me as obtuse and not really understanding. But obviously there was a very deep-seated culture there that was brewing, and I had to examine myself a lot too, the way I lived. Anyway, this is why so many traumatized men want to be women these days. Probably, I mean, women used to stuff their shoulder pads in the corporate in the corporate sector to stack up to people in the workplace, and now men are putting on wigs to try to get ahead. So pop culture, if embraced, turns everyone into the worst version of themselves. I guess I can say that in short. But in this particular simulation, the power is being primarily rewarded to one side. That is women. That is the unholy feminine. Okay. Now, whether it's really power, I don't think so. I think it's all very degrading, and I think it's administrative tokenism. I think in the slave world, the prison planet that they're building for us all, they are seeing that the psychological profile of liberal women is very, very conducive to finding, prison wardens who are ruthless and are just, they go wild. They go far more out of control than the men do. Especially since they've been taught that, nobody should ever lay a hand on you, queen. But you go out there and you be the boss that you need to be. Now, is that really power, or is that administrative tokenism? I don't know. Okay, but a new kind of slave society is what we're living in right now. The kind of society that brings Karine Jean-Pierre into positions of prominence. Is she really a talented person, or is she a token administrator inside of a big government funhouse? Okay, it's all an illusion, but inside of the illusion, there's real authority that is given to people who have been turned into animals. And that authority, no matter how illegitimate, can make your life a living hell. So these are things we have to realize.
The modern university is the primary laboratory for the cluster B pathologies. On campus, the pathocracy rules. The social critic Heather McDonald reveals the basic contours of this regime in an essay entitled The Great Feminization of the University. McDonald argues that the dramatic rise in the number of female college administrators who now dominate the campus culture has led to a growing obsession with safety, harm, and victimization. Rather than prioritize academic achievement and substantive debate, administrators have elevated nebulous therapeutic concepts such as trauma, white fragility, and systemic injustice. As McDonald notes, when students claim to be felled by ideas that they disagree with, the feminized bureaucracy does not tell them to grow up and get a grip, it validates their self-pity. As a result, American college students have found themselves in the midst of an unprecedented mental health crisis. According to the University of Michigan's Healthy Mind study, more than 60% of college students meet the criteria for at least one mental health problem, a nearly 50% increase since 2013. The more we indulge cluster B-style pathologies, the more we replicate them in our institutions. But rather than reverse course, university administrators have only leaned further into this broken model. Students are told that they are always under attack, that their safety is always threatened. And rather than strengthen them for meeting these challenges, administrators fight to sanitize the campus environment and shut down any speech deemed harmful or offensive. This is the perfect...
It's a matriarchy. That's why. It's a matriarchy. They have let chaotic feminine energy run amok. That's it.
Recipe for enabling and encouraging cluster B-style narcissism and hysteria. Scenes and sentiments like these have become ubiquitous, and they work.
I'm uncomfortable because this event is tearing at the fabric of this community that I care about.
As we saw recently at Stanford Law School, the Dean of Diversity and Inclusion, working in a codependent manner with hyperventilating students, disrupted the speech of a federal judge. The dean accused the judge of causing harm and making her uncomfortable. This is all it takes to justify the mob. It's cluster B-powered pathocracy in action. The cluster B pathologies have a remarkable power of transmission, and like a pathogen leaking from a lab, they've broken containment and are spreading through the rest of society. The messaging of our major corporations is looking more and more like the celebration of disorder, whether it's attempting to normalize gender dysphoria or rewriting the standards of health and beauty. Social media has only accelerated these trends. Sites like TikTok have become a breeding ground for mental illness, especially in teenage girls, who mimic the cluster B behaviors they see online and have seen skyrocketing rates of anxiety and depression in the real world too. The sudden explosion of transgenderism follows the same line of development. Transgender individuals are 30 times more likely to suffer from the cluster B personality disorders compared to the general population. And more than 50% of mothers with gender dysphoric boys suffer from borderline personality disorder, a remarkable transmission of psychopathology. Much of the recent left-wing violence has also taken on the cast of the cluster B disorders. The George Floyd riots were remarkable in part for their psychological tone. Wild emotional displays, narcissistic identity rituals, and victimology manifested in the streets. The antisocial personalities have learned how to wield left-wing ideology in order to justify their violence and terror. As psychologists have long known, there is a long-established link between violent personalities and left-wing authoritarianism. The mugshots of Antifa foot soldiers drive home the point. These are not mentally well people. They are the hideous face of antisocial violence, the enforcement arm of the modern left, the political vanguard of our cluster B society, and they will not stop until they've transformed the world in their own image. Anonymous right-wing critics have taken to calling this strange new cluster B regime the Longhouse, a matriarchal form of society that privileges the values of care, concern, and feminine social strategies. In an essay for the magazine First Things, the pseudonymous writer Lomez explains that women now outnumber men in professional managerial roles and vastly outnumber men in human resource departments, which have outsized influence on professional and cultural norms. The left, too, is now acknowledging the emergence of the Longhouse. In her presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton confidently declared that the future is female. And in an essay for The Atlantic, Hannah Rosen heralded this change with an essay titled The End of Men. Both were correct, but while some are celebrating this shift, Our female future is not an unalloyed good. Despite what we're told, biological sex differences are real, and an imbalance between the two has negative effects for everyone. Taken too far, overly feminized leadership produces exactly the kind of cluster B society we're living in today. One in which identity is rewarded over merit, in which victimhood is prioritized over competence, in which antisocial behavior goes unchecked, in which moral narcissism is the currency of the realm. The cluster B society is upon us, and we must find a way out. We must find a way to restore balance, to restore order, to restore sanity, because if we don't, we are resigned to a world gone mad. If you want a picture of that future, imagine this person screaming in your face forever.
There you go. That's Christopher Rufo's work. That's the real question. It's the real question. How do you restore balance? How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, it's really simple. It would be really simple if it were a simple task to take over or reestablish a foothold in all of those institutions, whether they be. I think the real thing is the money. The real thing is the money. All of the aid, the universities need to be choked to death. Choked to death. Okay? There will always be people out there who will be rich enough to send their kids to the best schools. Everybody else, the common person that they are trying to destroy, all right? Those who are being groomed to take on the leadership roles in the next generations, they are not going to be sent to the schools, the public schools where everybody's having, Pride Month and all they're talking about is sexuality and gender expression and this and that, and they're becoming so fragile that they can't have a conversation about anything. That's for us. That's for the little people. If there's just a way to make all the money go away, oh boy, that would cure a lot of immigration. You want to talk about deportations? You want to look at self-deportations? Let the money dry up. I mean, there's just so much. Well, what do you think about that? What came up for you along the way? I'd like to take some of your calls in the second half of the show. When we come back, we're going to start with your super chats. We'll jump into your calls. I got a little bit over here and there. And then we'll also talk some lost and found in the second half as well. We got a whole hour, and I cannot wait to chill with you all. So, with that being said, we will see you soon. And also, that also means we will see you off of YouTube. So make your way over to Rumble or to quitefrankly.tv or to Twitch, to DLive, to Twitter. We're going to be adding Telegram and hopefully Odyssey back in here soon now that Theta is gone and a few others are being shifted around. But yeah, that's that. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Don't worry, Franklies. That's not the end of the show. You can watch the rest of it now. Switch over to quitefrankly.tv, Rumble, Theta, Rockfin, and more. Switch over now, and we'll see you there.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.